My name is Catherine Alcorn. I'm a Sydney-based actor, singer, producer and mum. I'm currently touring in a musical, Menopause the Musical, at the moment. I've been auditioning for musical theatre for 15 years and I just got cast in my first, so I am fully employed for 6 months. I'm getting a salary for 6 months.
Wait, okay, I didn't know this about you. I thought you were always in musical theatre.
No. So I started auditioning for lots of TV, film, musical theatre, and never really sort of caught that break that I wanted. But that didn't stop me from believing in myself, going, okay, just because you're not hiring me, you're not, casting me, doesn't mean I'm going to wait for the phone to ring. I can produce my own work. So it all started with my first show that is now my flagship show, The Divine Miss Bet, where I played Bette Midler. I first opened that show at the Country Club in Wagga Wagga in 2009, and it has gone on to tour Australia multiple times, and it's just been the greatest gift of my professional life. And so from there, I've created other pieces of work and had works commissioned, and I've sort of just built this career on doing my own thing. Everything was going really well. I had created multiple shows, and then the last show that we had spent 2019, my partner and I spent 2019 producing a 30-day tour of, for 2020 fell away very, very quickly. We can sort of say now that the rest is history because everyone understands what the industry went through during that time and through COVID. But even now, we still haven't picked up that work again. Every sort of portion of your life is affected by that work falling away. It's not just you not performing, it's the band, it's the costumers, it's the makeup artists, it's the venues. If we're doing a 30-day regional tour, those venues don't open if you don't perform. Those ushers don't work. The microeconomy of each town just stops. So we weren't responsible for it, but we felt it just as deeply had we have been, I think. Like, for me as an artist, a large portion of who I am is because of my work. So when you're forced with not being able to move forward, not being able to create, with stagnation, it's a huge undertaking, I think, to be able to deal with that. I was forced to sort of, as an existential question, just say, well, who am I without this work? And I know that to be true for a lot of my friends in the industry. It got dark, it did. And I'm not scared to share that. I think that this is life. And, pre-COVID, the music and arts industry was a roller coaster beforehand. That's just what a freelancer's lifestyle is. Yeah. And it was just even more so after that. So I think that sort of base level anxiety was certainly heightened for sure. So that's when I started to just take that time to reflect and have therapy and spend time with my family and sort of regain that health that I had kind of really lost. Honestly, thank God for Support Act, because they really helped me and my family through some really tricky financial times. So many people during that time didn't realise that they could access support funds like Support Act. So whenever I could, I would always be sharing the messaging, and that's sort of how I really came to know about who Support Act were and what they did. We are in the industry of knockbacks. My career is based on no's.
How do you deal with that?
It took me a long time to get used to it. No, it took me a really long time to learn how to deal with the no's and the no callbacks and the you were so close. I just have to trust the process. I have to believe that that's just clearing the path for what is right for you. Honestly, that's the only way I can sort of deal with it in my mind.
That's such a good piece of advice.
You can thank my therapist for that.
Oh, that's great. So what would you tell a younger you or a younger person how to get there?
My favourite quote ever is, comparison is the thief of joy. Teddy Roosevelt said that, and when I read that quote a few years ago, it's like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. If you spend your time comparing yourself to others and other people's benchmarks and what they're achieving compared to what you are, it takes away from your ability to focus sharply on what it is you want to achieve. Keep going, trust the process, don't doubt yourself. This life that we've chosen as a creative, or the life I've chosen, is a roller coaster, and I signed up for that. I bought that ticket to ride that roller coaster, so I'm going to endure it because I really do love it. There are great moments and then there are horrific moments, but that is what shapes you as a human being. The hardest thing as a performer that I've ever been through was when I had my baby. I was back on the road 5 weeks after my son was born. And I think there's a lot to say around the conversation about women wanting to be the person they were before the baby and then be the mum as well. I chose to go back on tour. I was legally contracted to be on tour, but I also wanted to do it, you know. And he was my first baby. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know that 5 weeks would feel like a day. We made it work, but physically, mentally, spiritually, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. And when and if we have another child, I will want to have that year off. But then I wonder, how will I cope with that year off? Because being a woman in the industry, being a mother in the industry, out of sight is out of mind. Will I stop creating? Will I cope? You know, there are so many different questions and ways to sort of look at your options. There is always something you're going to feel guilty about as a mum. I think that's just a given. I think it's how you learn to manage that guilt, which is the lesson. I feel guilty about the fact I'm not going to see him every day and be there to pick him up from school, and that he has to go to after school care, and, you know, that I don't get to tuck him in and don't get to read him to sleep at night. But I also want this experience of being employed full-time for 6 months rather than having to source my own work. I want the experience of performing in an ensemble with 4 other brilliant actresses. The guilt, it's heavy. There's no other way to say it. It is heavy. And I do believe that as a mum, you're going to find some reason or something to feel guilty about across the course of your motherhood journey, I guess.